OGaccountability.com.
It's that start small, Yeah. And of course, but I'm the type of person I shift into overdrive very fast. Like if I do it one week and I'm still want to do it the next week, well, now I need to build something and change. I would love to build, but we were kind of talking about hurts, different things. Information changes. Excuse me. Information changes everything when you're dealing with people. Sometimes you look at people and you think, man, they're rude. And so you just chalk them off as rude. Yeah. Well, you never know what that person's dealing with. And I know that's cliche. And our pastor uses this analogy, and it is perfect. So there's a guy, he gets on a subway there in New York City. He's got 2 kids with him. He sits down and he's just kind of staring at the floor, kind of somber. And these kids are just ransacking the place, man. They're running up and down the aisles, knocking into people's newspapers. People are looking at the dad like, hey, get your kids in order. And finally some lady reaches over and taps him on the knee and said, are you going to get these kids to settle down or what? And he kind of snapped to. He said, I am so sorry. I apologize. He's like, she's like, what's wrong with you? And he said, we just left the hospital, and their mom has been sick for quite some time, and she didn't make it. She didn't pull out of surgery tonight, and I have no clue how I'm going to tell these kids when we get home that their mother passed away. Wow. And immediately in that subway car, the mood changed. People pick the kids up, man. They're pulling candies out of their pockets, handing the kids candies, loving on them, hugging on them. Nothing changed. The only thing that changed was the information that was in the room. Yeah. And sometimes we react out of our selfishness. Yes. We react out of the way we think things should be because we don't have all the information. But if you give me all the information, I can most of the time come up with a logical response. But the issue we deal with in humanity is most people don't take time to get the information. Yeah. They just want to take the time to get their point across. And that is where people keep butting heads over stuff that doesn't matter. Half the stuff we argue about holds no relevance at all. At the end of the day, I'm going to go home to my family. You're going to go home to your family, but no, we have to be right. Yeah. And I think that right there, Miguel, is when you choose to come submit your life to God. It's not just that I'm submitting to some big guy in the sky. No. It's admitting I'm wrong. Yeah. Yeah. It's admitting that, hey, there is a way that is higher than mine. There's a path that is, like you said earlier, it's not always going to be easy. Yeah. If anything worthwhile is easy, it's not worthwhile. Nothing's easy. Yeah. When we have jobs, if I have contractors come, they look at something and I have certain things that need to be done. I've done enough to know if somebody said, oh, I can knock that out in an hour, I'm not hiring you. You can't even get the tools out in an hour. Yeah. So not going to happen. But, so we get through that transition. Here you are now. You got 3 kids, beautiful wife. You live in the amazing town, Huffman, Texas, man.
Of course. Yes.
Huffman rocks. Grown up my whole life here. And so y'all were actually serving and pastoring at, was it in South Houston? Where was
we were pastoring Northwest Houston.
Northwest Houston. Okay.
Yes. I ended up the pastor at that church, Woodland Trails Church. He retired. At that time, he was probably about 95.
Well, I would say he.
So I think he might have been a little overdue, but his passion was amazing. Yeah. So he ended up retiring, and that's whenever they ended up getting me and my wife to pastor there. Their words were, "We're gonna have you here as a pastor while we seek somebody." Obviously, I'm young, right? And people sometimes judge you, like you said, without having any information. They judge you based on who you look or how you look or how they think you are. So they were like, hey, we're only going to hire you temporarily until we find someone, that is ready. So I said, okay, I'm not going to let that hurt me. I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm just going to walk. And as we started pastoring, I started realizing how much work I needed, right? And I say that because patience, tolerance. Your patience level needs to be, all time high. Your tolerance level needs to be at an all time high, especially because the church that I started pastoring was a uh, older generation church. 70 and up was 90% of the members. 10% was my wife, my kids, my parents, and my sister, and they were going there. My dad's a pastor, but they were going there to, back me up. Um, but when you have 70 and over year olds, and at that time I'm 28, right? You have a 28-year-old. The first thing that I would hear is, "What are you gonna teach me?" Right? What like I even had somebody tell me, "I know the Bible from Genesis all the way to Revelation. So what can you tell me that I don't already know?" And my flesh, me, right? Keep in mind, I grew up in Acres Homes, which is a very, very ghetto area in Houston. And that side of me wanted to come out and say, "Hey, dude, if you don't like it, get out of here."
Right.
But we have to be wise, right? And that's one thing that I had to learn. And my response to that person was, well, my goal is not for me to be the one talking, but allow the Spirit to talk through me so that you may pick something new. And he looked at me and he just smiled and he walked away.
Yeah, because number one, beautiful response. But number two, what are you going to say to that?
Yeah. Yeah. So
basically, you just said, "Hey, take it up with God."
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I learned that I would be in the middle of service. And every now and then I would also get remarks like, "In English, please." Right? And I would just look at myself and say, "Hey, it's okay. You keep going.
Cállate, chongo."
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, my wife would sometimes get upset and she would say, "Hey, man, you got to say something. You got to tell them this or tell them that." And I would be like, "No, let me be patient, right?" And I don't want to give them something for them to say, "You remember this day when he did this or he did that?" So I would always say, "Okay, I need to talk to them. Lord, how do I talk to these people?" Right? Because they've been through a lot as well. Yes, I had so much remarks, and yes, I had so much that I wish I could have said to them. But it wasn't until one day that I started preaching about the four friends that took their paralyzed man to Jesus, right? And how they started breaking off everything just to get him in. And as I'm preaching this message on this, I tell the people, I want you to picture how crowded that place was, right? How crowded was it to where they could see him from a distance and they knew we got to do whatever it takes to get there.
Like, we all need some friends like that.
Exactly. And I started telling the church, we never, or excuse me, let me change that word. We rarely see Christians supporting Christians. And the reason I say that is because when we get attacked spiritually, or when we get attacked in life in general, the devil sends his army and they all work as a team. As one of them is hitting you down in your body, the other one is getting you in your jaw, right? And they're working as a team. I have never seen the devil not work as a team with his crew to knock you down, or to knock a preacher down, or to knock down anybody in general. But I always see a Christian hating on another Christian. I always see a church compete with another church.
Yeah.
Right? We always see this. And as I'm saying this, and again, good thing I never respond the way I wanted to. As I'm preaching this and I say, we got to be more like Christ and be more like those friends that supported that paralyzed man and said, I don't care how many people are there. I don't care how many religions I see. I don't care how many hurt people I see. I need to get my friend to that man there because that man has something to offer me. And as I say that, when I finish the sermon, the church comes up to me. A group of them come up to me, and they say, "You have no idea how many pastors have come here and hurt us. And they tell us that we need to give up because we're old. And they tell us that there's no more future for us. And they tell us, and here you are, a 28-year-old kid," right? That's what they said.
Yeah.
28-year-old kid telling us that there's still hope, and all we need is to find a group of friends that are willing to stick with us and take us closer to God. And when they said that, I said, whoa. Because all these other pastors, prior to the last pastor that was there, they were all, 60s, 65s. They were all very well, you would say, experienced pastors. And here they were, but their motives was to get this church out because they were old, to do something else. And here's a 28-year-old guy, right, letting them know, hey, until you die,